The great news is you don't get healthy, you do healthy, right? So we can teach our patients the start doings and stop doings, the strategies that the healthiest people in the world have adopted and proven. We're walking it out every day in our own families, but also in the tens of thousands of people we each take care of. And the 35 million Americans today that identify themselves as getting regular chiropractic care, we're doing 1 million adjustments a day in America.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Chiro. And look who is back with us today. After a few weeks out, we have Dr. Michael Heskett back with us and Dr. Stephen Franson, rocking the Make America Healthy Again OG hat, let me say. So, both of you, thank you so much for being with us today. I know this conversation is going to bless so many people, especially with where our country is as of today. So, Dr. Heskett, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce.
Hey, everybody. I just want to say that I've missed you guys. I've missed being a part of Coffee with the Chiro. This is one of my favorite times of the week. And so it is fantastic to be back with you. That's first and foremost. I'm super pumped for several reasons. I'm super pumped about my good friend who's going to be on the call today. But also, I'm super pumped. That's 9 days until duck season. So we are we are getting ready to ramp up 60 days of just pure Jesus. It's going to be amazing. There's nothing like December and January as far as I'm concerned. But we're not going to talk about that today. It'll be a future episode. We're going to bring some expert duck hunters on here. I believe in a future episode, we've got Ian Heskett coming on with G2G Hunting. But today, I have the great privilege of introducing a super great friend and just a man of God and someone who we've been excited. It was kind of hard to get him. He travels a lot, hard to get him zeroed in on this, but he is with us today. He lives in New Hampshire. He graduated and walked the same hall as me at the same time. We figured that out in a later date at Life University in 1996. He is happily married to Camilla and has 2 kids, Sam and Emma Grace. We had the blessing of hearing Sam speak at our most recent chiropractic revolution. He is a solid young man, which I always say, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So we know that Dr. Stephen, what most impresses me about him is not the accomplishments he has made in chiropractic, but it is the man of God and the father and husband that he is. And you can see that in his kids. They just love the Lord. And so it is an honor to have the founder of the remarkable practice, which I am a part of. I have been a part of that for about a year and a half, and it has not only changed my personal life, but have changed my practice. We have opened another practice, experienced supernatural growth. A lot of you don't know this. If you're patient, you're listening to this, you have benefited from the wisdom that God has given Dr. Stephen and his team, and we have poured that out upon our patients. And if you've been in our office before, just a quick thing to let you know, if you've ever been to Heskett Family Chiropractic, one of our 4 locations, you know that when you walk in the door, you're family. And that is so important to us. We want to tell you before we introduce Dr. Stephen that if you are considering, you're not a patient, you're considering coming to our office, mention you heard us on this podcast and you come in for 47. That includes your exam consultation and your x-rays. So we want to invite you to come to one of our locations. We would love to have you. But today we are going to unpack. We've gone through this crazy season of election. It doesn't matter whether it went your way or not. What really matters is that we want to make America healthy again. We know this is a great opportunity with John F. Kennedy Jr. We know he's going to have a role in that. So there's going to be we're going to shake things up around here. And we know there's going to be some changes made. And I'm excited to hear what Dr. Stephen has us for us today to make America healthy again. Dr. Stephen, great to have you. God bless you, man.
Dr. Michael, Caroline, thank you so much for teaming me up, setting me up, and asking me to be here. What a privilege. It's always a privilege to be able to address people and share the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So thank you for helping me serve my purpose, which is to restore health. So if you're a chiropractor, our mission is to help more people help more people. So this is just a great vehicle to do that. I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today.
Absolutely. And I mean, Dr. Franson, why don't we open it up? Because this is honestly a topic that I have not myself unpacked in this capacity. And so I know patients, people like myself that aren't doctors or in the office can completely benefit from. So let's just start with the basics too of just can you explain the illness wellness continuum and why it's an important concept for people to understand?
100%. And I love that you use the word concept because people, the doctors, the teachers that are listening out there, don't focus so much about teaching people things. Teach people concepts because people understand concepts and they apply them to the things, right? So when they're asking questions. So we're going to get after some concepts today. I'm going to get after what I think is the 12 most important concepts for a layperson to understand. In other words, the 12 most important things for our doctors and their teams to teach their patients if we are truly going to make America healthy again. So yeah, it's super fashionable and I'm excited about that everybody's talking about making America healthy again. And we're gonna talk about this without being political, to your point, because you don't have to be. That's the beauty of this. It's why this is a God thing. To be honest with you, I don't know where anybody in your audience falls or stands. I could probably make some educated guesses just based on how like you said, apples don't bounce. I'm guessing people that are following this podcast, they're at least open to critical thinking and wanting to be informed for them and for their families and the most important decisions of their lives, including their health, right? So for the health of them and for their children. And as much as that was a crazy political season, as Dr. Michael said, and I'll tell you straight out of the gate, I'm a big RFK fan because he is fully aligned with chiropractic, and he's a man of God who understands the vitalistic principles, the wellness paradigm. He's a chiropractic consumer himself, he's a chiropractic patient, and he walks and lives the chiropractic wellness lifestyle. So I probably used a bunch of terms here that we throw around as chiropractors. So I'd love to be able to unpack those a bit in the time you guys have blessed me with. But before we go there, I just want to make sure that we don't miss something, right? So, going into the election, to be honest with you, I had some anxiety. I was a bit anxious, but my, faith walk is always God is good and he's in charge. And when RFK dropped away, I was like, oh man, but I know the truth. And the truth is God's answer is always no, I have something better for you. And he was right, right? So, at the end of the day, when we think about like the position that RFK is in at this point, where his oversight is going to be specifically around the issues that we care most about, which is, let's call it the health continuum, making sure that we keep him focused on that. Because think about it, if he was elected president, he'd have to worry about everything. So think about that job as being president. It's the most important position in the world. It's the biggest, most challenging, most complex job in the world. Wouldn't we rather have our wellness at Health Champion focused on one thing, right? And as he put it, as divided as we are politically, we just have to come together and unite around the truth. We just have to love our children more than we hate each other. And I just thought that was a great codifying statement. And if we could just stay fixed on that as a nation, I believe that we can make America healthy again.
1,000%. I mean, you could just see when he was speaking those words how emotional he was. Like he was not just saying it to win people over. Like he truly meant it with every fiber in his being that he wanted us to be able to put the political differences aside, come together for the betterment and future of our children. And let's start there at the common ground in that report.
Yeah, for those of the people out there that are saying they're saying, well, why do we need changes in our healthcare? Dr. Stephen, can you just share some of the stats of where we rank as far as health is concerned for the people that don't?
100%. Give me 4 minutes and you'll be able to answer that question, right? So yeah, I think the best place to start, and we're talking about make America healthy again. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't challenge what is our definition of health, right? So let's just start there, right? So if the objective is to become healthier, then everybody should have clarity around, okay, so what does that mean? Like, really, what does that mean, right? So I love this definition. This is actually from the World Health Organization. So if this is what the top quote unquote influencers in the healthcare space, if they define health as health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmary, right? So think about that. We have a system that has evolved away from that call to action, right? Responsibility of making sure that if we're going to have a healthcare system, the healthcare system should have as at its objective, the foundation of it is to increase health, right? So health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. So let those words land, because ultimately what has happened is we have been derailed, right? So we've gone from a system that promotes health to a system that treats disease. And what we teach is a concept called three-tier healthcare, right? So the bottom tier is the treatment of disease, okay, which is the medical system, which is wait until you've lost your health and treat the disease, right? So the second tier is the prevention of disease, right? So it's making choices that will prevent disease. The third tier is actually the promotion of health. And so it's actually teaching people the start doings and stop doings and giving them the strategies that will actually create greater health. And we're going to bring that into the rest of the conversation as we unpack this illness wellness continuum. By the way, I don't want to forget, just in case we get after it, Dr. Mike and I have a tendency to get after it. We want to make sure that we call to everybody's attention. We've got a download for them, right? So if they want to if they want to capture a copy of this health continuum, especially if the doctors out there, man, get a copy of this, turn it into a first, or hang it up in your report of findings and bring it into your wireless workshop, bring it into your report of findings, bring it into your justatorium so you can teach your patients the incredible concepts that we're going to go over today. So if we are to look at like Dr. Michael just said, a tree is known by its fruit. Well, let's look at the fruit. Okay, so if we're going to examine this tree, which is exactly what this new team is doing, they're taking a look at and the outcomes. Let's just talk data, right? So I love the concept of a leader should be one part gut, two parts data, right? So it should be one part instinct or common sense, but two parts data. Here's what the data is telling us. The United States per capita, our healthcare spending is over twice the average of other wealthy countries, more than twice, right? And this, I'll be honest, this data is a bit dated because things got a little wonky in 22, 23, didn't they, right? So we started hiding the numbers, right? Let me just tell you what, I've had eyes on it, and it's worse than this, right? So we're spending more than twice what the rest of the countries are. So think about this. And when you look at the 2019, Bloomberg rated the healthiest countries in the world. This is their index. When you look at the top 20 countries, you could strain your eyes on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me save you the trouble. We're not even listed in the top 20. In fact, we're number 39. Right. So you would think, as a business person, that if you made investments and you were spending more than twice everybody else, you would at least be at the top of the list, right? Even then, you could be like, hey, let's become more efficient. We're not even in the top 38, right? Number 39. It's incredible. When we look at the US life expectancy, we have the lowest life expectancy among large, wealthy countries, while far outspending them on healthcare. Look at this list. Life expectancy in the US is 76.1, with our spending per capita at 12,318. And then you just move down the list to, I mean, if you look at the Netherlands at 81.5, Belgium at 81. Would you look at France, 82.5, Australia, 83.4, Japan, 84.5. I mean, we're just falling up short, coming up short on the most important metrics. And ultimately, the call to action for this new administration is, hey, I've got an idea. Let's take all the investments that we're doing and making, and let's scrutinize the outcomes that we're actually getting. And it's time to revise the system. I believe that we can do better.
Correct. I mean, this is wild when you really see the data right in front of your face that we have double the amount of spending and we're nowhere near any of the top healthy countries in the world. So any rational thinking person, right? I'm not a mathematician by any means, but I can sit here and say this is not adding up. What we're supposed to be doing for the health care of our, the people that live in America, but then look at the outcomes. It is not adding up.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you what, I called this deck down. There was 100 slides. I picked 3 or 4 that were super high level, but we could go into the percentage of the obese, percentage of type 2 diabetes, the percentage of people with heart disease, cancer. We're off the charts. The survival of a baby during the birth process, the survival of an infant one year, first year of life. I mean, just ridiculous metrics that would totally break your guessing machine.
That's wild. So what are we hoping, for RFK Jr. to do? What can we do just also as a patient or as a person who's trying to look at this from an individual perspective? What can I do to make I'm not one of these, outcomes like this?
I don't want to be discouraging as I review this, but rather to be encouraging and give people hope because ultimately, what we're seeing here is like, well, just throwing money at problems is not the solution, right? And I don't think it's because we have a shortage of doctors or nurses or healthcare providers, and we don't have a shortage of treatments or surgeries or drugs or facilities, right? It's not because we have a shortage, right? Obviously, we have more than everyone. So ultimately, it's not a resources question, but rather a perspective question, right? So, and it's the perspective of what we call the paradigm through which you look at situations and answer questions and make decisions, right? So we like to say in chiropractic that your paradigm is the lens through which you look at the world. Right.
Yes.
So I think that that's the most beautiful way to think about it is you have a paradigm. You have lenses through which you look at the world. It's your perspective. It shapes all of your decision making process and your belief systems. So Dr. Michael and I, we got into chiropractic because one reason we wanted to serve God by helping people achieve better health outcomes. Period. Hard stop. All right. So I know him well enough where I can assume, Michael, I can say that for you. So forget better outcomes. And what we know is true is that you can't do an outcome. No matter how hard we try or how much we wish we could, you can't do an outcome for people, right? You have behaviors drive outcomes. Would you agree? So we have to go upstream from the outcomes and say, well, you can't just do an outcome. We do behaviors that drive outcomes, right? So if we go upstream from outcomes and we focus on behaviors, man, if any of us have raised kids or maybe raised a husband before, you probably recognize that trying to modify behavior can be a fool's errand, right? A fruitless endeavor, right? So at best, it's frustrating and probably short lived. Just trying to modify people's behaviors because it's our belief systems that organize our behaviors. So if we go upstream from our behaviors, we have to go all the way back to our belief systems. So it's our belief systems that organize our behaviors, and it's our behaviors that drive our outcomes. So if you really want to get better outcomes, you're going to need to adopt better behaviors. And in order to adopt better behaviors, you're going to need to adopt a different perspective, a different belief system. So I'm going to propose a different paradigm. Now, I'm going to let you look through my lenses, and Dr. Michael shares the same lenses. You can just borrow these for now. If you want to put yours back, if you're listening to this message for the first time, you can put yours back on. But for now, why don't we slide on these lenses to hear this message? So the place I want to start with this is this concept, this paradigm of inside out versus outside in, right? So we live in an outside in world. Okay. The existing paradigm that I grew up in, and I'm guessing that unless you guys were raised by a wellness warrior, some chiropractic weirdo who taught you the truth, we probably grew up in the outside in paradigm. And then the outside in paradigm simply teaches that your problems come from outside of you, right? And the solutions come from outside of you, right? Well, the problems come out from outside of you. It sounds something like this. I was perfectly healthy yesterday, and then I came across a germ, and the germ got inside of me, and today I'm sick, right? So the problem came from outside of me. And if I am sick today, then I have to take something else from outside of me, like a drug, into my body to get my health back. When you think about that, it's like, yeah, that's how everybody thinks, but it feels kind of silly and laughable, right? So when we recognize that there's germs everywhere, I mean, my degree is in biology. There's germs everywhere, right? They're ubiquitous. The idea of like trying to avoid germs is ridiculous, right? So what you want to do is recognize that germs are just opportunistic. They're like seeds into the soil. So our job is to not try to avoid germs. Our job is try to avoid being the soil that opportunistic germ is looking for, right? So our truth around this perspective is totally and radically different. Instead of looking at your problems coming from outside of you and your solutions coming from outside of you, if you lost your health, you have to take something from the outside and put it in to get your health back. We actually flip the script on this, and the perspective is actually inside out, right? So our problems come from inside out, and so do our solutions, right? So what we know to be true is it's our behaviors that drive our outcomes, right? So and what we recognize is that we're living in such an unnatural, fully stressful way that we're actually weakening the body. It was a term that was introduced during COVID called immunocompromise, right? So it was the immunocompromised. Those were the people that were susceptible to the COVID catastrophe. They were weakened on the inside, and those are the people that were susceptible and really at risk for getting this infection and really not being able to adapt to it, right? Which is really the definition of wellness. So they were weak on the inside so that when they did come across this virus, they really struggled and suffered. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we also teach if your problems come from inside out, so does your health and healing. What we know to be true is healing happens from above, down, and inside out, right? So our body is innately intelligent, right? So, and we understand that the body is self-regulating and self-healing. This innate intelligence courses through our system. It's the same intelligence that when a sperm bumped into an egg, 270 days later, you were you, right? How awesome is that? It's that same intelligence, right? That right now is digesting your breakfast that you ate this morning. It's sending the proteins and the fats to the exact tissue repair. But your heart is going to beat 2,000 times. Hey, you're going to take 10 steps. You're not having to think of even one of them, right? So all of this is subconscious. This is an expression of the intelligence of the body. And it's that intelligence that courses across the nervous system that regulates your body and heals your body. Dr. Michael, I know that I'm singing your song, Health Up from Up, Down, and Inside Out.
Yeah. Um, so, growing the greatest thing, just hearing you talk about this is something that yesterday was our birthday, 28 years of serving people and chiropractic and just listening to this. This is a song I've been singing for, longer than 28 years, really. You know, the thing about it is watching patients over those 28 years, watching God heal their body and the power, we say the power that made the body, the power that created the body heals the body. And just educating patients on that and watching it. But the biggest thing that we've seen is watching our kids. I got 23, 21, 19, and 16, watching our kids grow up in a world of outside in and just watching them grow up and heal from the inside out, from above down, inside out has been the greatest blessing. Has it been scary at times? Well, sure it has. I've seen my son lie on the couch for a week, with the flu, but, just keep checking, keep fluids, keep checking his spine, making sure he's in alignment. So his nervous system, which we haven't gotten there yet, jumping the gun, but I guarantee it, we're coming there. The whole body and how it's designed and created, and God designed it. He talked about the two cells coming together to make one cell. And then everything else after that is designed by God and not by accident. The word of God says that he knit us together in the womb. And the fact that two cells can come together and 10 months later you have a miracle, which I had the blessing of catching my kids and holding them when they had their first breath. I mean, that's it. If you can see that, experience that, and watch that, and not think that it's all, you know, that God didn't design it and that he's not in control of it, then I don't know what to say. But yeah, right on track, and I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, so I love to hear you talk about your kids, and I always take this opportunity here to say, so people who are hearing this for the first time, maybe like, I want to make sure you hear that this is not some radical religious cultist mindset, right? So it's just like at the end, Michael and I raised our kids from with the above down, inside out paradigm. They understood the truth that they also understood outside in. We educate them so they understand both perspectives. I mean, they are totally equipped to make their best decisions. It's not that we just watch our children suffer and say, man, they really need drugs or surgery right now, but we're not going to do it because we don't believe in that. That's not true at all. What we believe to be true is the body has incredible capacity, right? And especially if you are fully committed to living that wellness lifestyle, your body's going to have such resilience. And the longer you stay healthier, the healthier you get. I got an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, and they're just beautiful human beings. I love what Dr. James Chestnut says about his kids. It's like, no, everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're just amazing. They're just like, I'm like, no, they're normal. right? That's what a normal human being looks like when you raise it according to God's natural laws and you teach them that their behaviors matter and they matter a lot, right? So that they take good care of themselves and they're really strong. And we recognize that when they run the fever, the body's intelligent. The fever's there for a reason, right? So the fever is the body's ability to kill off infection versus like, hey, let's kill off the fever and then give them more drugs to try to kill off the infection. And it's like, of course, you watch them responsibly and you understand like your job as a parent is to listen to your innate, understand the physiology, and then trust that the body's intelligent and then stand by and watch. Make sure that there's nothing crazy because at some point they may need outside in help. And thank God that he also created the medical experts and the pharmaceutical solutions and the surgeries to keep people from dying, but that has nothing to do with being healthy. Okay, so there's two different expertises here, which we're going to unpack in a second. But I just want you to understand that concept of there's a big difference from being sick and being healthy, right? And people actually, they walk around and they think that they're healthy one day and then they catch something, they toggle over, and next thing you know, they're sick. Like I was healthy on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then I caught something, a germ got in me on Saturday. Then I was sick on Sunday, Monday, and I woke up on Tuesday and I was healthy again. And I think they're toggling back and forth like that. But if we learned anything through COVID with the immunocompromise, people understanding that people are actually, they're toggling between sick and not sick and never actually getting to healthy, right? So most people are sick, meaning symptomatic, or not sick, which means unhealthy but asymptomatic, right? So in their minds, either like, hey, I feel fine, I must be fine. I feel crappy, I must be sick, right? So that's the mentality. They walk around and they're actually toggling between sick and not sick, as opposed to toggling between healthy and sick. It's really important that people understand symptoms, right? We call them body signals, right? So I believe, like Michael believes, that the body's intelligent and God gave us this ability to communicate with ourselves, right? So we have symptoms. Symptoms is your body's way of talking to your body, to your mind and saying, listen, you're putting me into a stressful situation that I'm not able to just adapt to and overcome. And I need you to stop doing that or start doing this, right? So it is a communication, beautiful communication network in the body, and body signals are symptoms, crises, conditions, right? So we call them body signals because the smart body's signaling to you, right? So, and the reality is we all understand this iceberg metaphor is that the iceberg, what you see is only 10% of what's below the surface. Amen. Right. So what we recognize is that there is so much more below the surface. And this analogy is beautiful because what you're feeling and seeing, the symptoms, are above the surface, but there's so much more going on underneath the surface. So if you were to treat this, take it to the medical paradigm and treat this and just knock the top off of this iceberg so you couldn't see it anymore and then say, okay, come back later, we'll check on you. What's going to happen? The peak of that iceberg is going to be sticking out of the water again. It's probably going to be bigger and it's going to be much bigger down below, right? So it's like the most dangerous words in healthcare is maybe it will go away, right? So we're teaching people and training people to just focus on your symptoms and not focus on the cause of the problems and address it. So what we end up with is we end up with this lifestyle where people are managing their bad behaviors and their ill health with pharmaceuticals, right? So they're no longer trying to correct problems or to express and experience health and optimal health. They're just simply managing their bad choices with pharmacology. In fact, they're being encouraged to do that verbally through the education system, as well as the economics of it with the insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So I love to teach my patients some big concepts that they can own and they can use in their life, right? So there's something that I say all the time, which is you don't get sick, you do sick, right? Because patients would come in, Dr. Michael, I'm getting sick. Well, you don't get sick, you do sick, right? And we know that's true, right? There are behaviors that lead to immunocompromise, and now that germ's finding you to be the good soil, right? So instead of focusing on the seed, we need to focus on the soil. Instead of focusing on the strength of the virus, we need to focus on the strength of the host, right? So we learned all that through COVID. You don't get sick, you do sick. And that's the good news. The great news is you don't get healthy, you do healthy, right? So we can teach our patients the start doings and stop doings, the strategies that the healthiest people in the world have adopted and proven. We're walking it out every day in our own families, but also in the tens of thousands of people we each take care of. And the 35 million Americans today that identify themselves as getting regular chiropractic care. We're doing 1 million adjustments a day in America. How awesome is that? People have no idea, right? They're doing that because they want to do healthy. You don't get healthy, you do healthy. Here's a new concept. Behaviors matter, right? We all knew it when it came to like our grades in school. We know when it comes to brushing our teeth, but we don't teach it to people when it comes to their health. Your behaviors matter and they matter a lot, right? So I love what Chestnut says on this. We teach people that your sickness comes from at germs, bad genes, or bad luck, and not bad behavior, right? So how much of a shift in our perspective and in our behaviors if people really understood that? And everyone that they came in contact with when it was educating them about what they can do to become a healthy human being, if we all started with like, listen, your behaviors matter and they matter a lot, right? Like we're not raised with that, right? So we've got to teach people that you have great influence on your output, on your outcomes, and your behaviors matter a lot. I like to say every choice, every day, right? So here's what we created for our patients to easily understand that. It's called the health equation, right? So the health equation looks like this. I love Venn diagrams. It's the only thing I have in common with Kamala. So I love Venn diagrams, right? So look at these three circles, right? So there's three circles that overlap, and the nexus in the middle of the three circles overlapping, that's you. That's your health experience, right? So the top circle is your genetics. Like, so when you look at your genetics, right? So the genetics are the piano that God gives you. And then your lifestyle is the music you choose to play, right? So you've got your genetics. Your parents came together and they had you, right? That's your genetics. You don't get to choose your genetics. Your environment, that's the outside environment, wherever you choose to spend your time. And then your lifestyle, let's call it the choices that you make and how you choose to eat, how you choose to move, and how you choose to think. These three things overlap, and that nexus is you and your health experience. And you can see that there's a denominator here. It's all over time because health and healing take time, right? And people have to extend to themselves some grace when it comes to getting their health back. Dr. Michael, how powerful is it for us to recognize that we are given genetics, and genetics is our potentiality, and the choices that we make with where we spend our time, our environment, and the lifestyle choices that we make determine our epigenetics or the phenotypic expression of our genome, which of course is us. It's our health experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of times a lot of patients are listening to this and, you know, we try to educate, during in our Better Results Faster workshop that we implemented here recently to educate the patient that you have a role. Like the genetics, you don't, but the decisions that you make, you can't just expect to walk in our office, lay down on the table, us adjust you, and that's the end of it. Like you got to move your body. Your body was created and designed to move. Right now, I'm going through a little bit of some health issues, but yesterday is I walked a mile and got down in the gym, and right now I'm not strong enough to be able to do big weights, but I'm lifting the bar because I understand that whenever I exercise, my body is releasing chemicals that no doctor can give me, that no doctor can provide for me. So I want to do my part as I walk through this health issue I'm having to make sure that I am doing my part to do everything I can to eat what I need to eat, to move my body, and to think in a way that, I just saw Priscilla Shriver video. They took it down, but it talks about the victory is now. The victory is not when we're healed. The victory is today. And we have to walk in that victory every single day. So if you're a patient and you're listening to this and you're stuck, you're like, man, I can't get through this headache, or I can't get through this pain going down my leg, or this numbness in my arm. Hang in there. The victory is today. And we say a prayer over you right now that the Lord would continue to minister to you and heal you, and just keep up with your appointments, that three-legged stool that we talk about, getting adjusted, the corrective exercises and breaking bad habits. Those things are the things that we want to continue to sow into you, and know that you are healed. And we just claim that over you right now, all of us, to say, if you're listening to this, you're healed today. Walk in that victory, but make sure you're making the decisions that move you in that direction.
That's exactly right. So, as chiropractors, we love to teach that chiropractic is a done with you program, not a done for you program, right? So But the truth is so is all healthcare, right? So this is a done with you program, not a done for you program. You have got to participate. And, when we strip away personal responsibility and behavior and we strip away truth, you have to understand that, as chiropractors, we approach this totally differently and we give people back hope and personal responsibility, right? So they have to understand that this is a partnership. We're gonna come alongside you as your doctor, right? So we're gonna educate you, we're gonna adjust you, we're gonna take care of you. You're gonna get world-class education and care from us, but this is a done with you program. You are the hero on this journey. We are the shepherd, right? So we're gonna come alongside you through your journey, right? The do's and don'ts. Start doing this and stop doing that. Do the do's and don't do the don'ts. That's our job, and it'll be the hugs and the high fives and the headlocks, whatever it takes to have you stay on course so you can actually heal and get your health back. Dr. Michael, man, I just love being a chiropractor. Man.
I'm so thankful that more and more people are having this conversation because as a mom of young kids, matter of 5, 7, and 9, they are having to learn that personal responsibility themselves with their food choices, with are we exercising today and the why behind it. And it's so, so good that more people are opening up to this because the younger that we can teach everybody the personal responsibility and the benefits as to why they're making the choices that they are, hopefully and prayerfully, less and less people have issues as they get older, and you'll kick to reverse everything that they've done leading up to that.
That's exactly right. They're so blessed to have you as a mom and making sure that you're teaching them that truth because it comes down to if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Right. So, for people who are looking for a better way, I'm going to suggest adopting this understanding. Right. So, we have this illness wellness continuum that we talk about. Right. So there's for those who are watching this on YouTube, you see it. But if you're just listening to this on the podcast, there's a double sided arrow. Right. They meet in the middle. The arrows point right and left, right? So the right hand arrow is the blue, and you can imagine like just do a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being neutral in the middle, and 10 being perfect optimal health on the far right hand side, right? And then conversely, if you go the opposite side to the yellow, orange, and red side of it, this is where we go from 0 to -1 all the way through to -10, right? -10 would be dead, right? So some people are looking at this right now on YouTube and saying, I'm placing myself on this continuum right now. Right. So where am I? Right. So in neutral, in the middle at 0, that ain't healthy. Right. And that ain't dead. Right. So, but you're that person in the middle that's like not sick. Right. So if you go to the right, you're healthy. If you go to the left, right. So what I want you to recognize is every one of us listening right now lands on this continuum somewhere. So if you picture that like a football field, and there's the midline put yourself on that field right now. Where are you on that arrow? Just in your mind, mentally put yourself on this arrow. Now, what I also know is true is when people come into our office, they're either moving towards health or away from health. There is no stasis in your health. You're either getting healthier or you're getting sicker in any given moment, right? So that's where the arrows come in. You're either moving away from health or you're moving towards health. So that means you have a direction. Okay. So now you're on this arrow and ask yourself, what direction are you moving? Okay. I also know that some people have a different velocity than others. Some people are getting sicker faster. Some people are getting healthier faster, right? So now we have a mass, heading in a direction. So now, and you have velocity. So now we have momentum, right? So now the physics of this starts to kick in. We just recognize people come into our office, they come to see me or Dr. Michael, any of his doctors. And the truth be told, is we're faced with a person who's probably been sick and getting sicker, doing sick for a long time, and they've got a negative momentum. They're headed in the wrong direction by the time they walk into us. And we got to tell them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. First, we give them back hope. Your body's intelligent, and your body is self-regulating and self-healing, and you can heal, you can get your health back. Secondly, you got to put the work in, and it's going to take some time, right? So you're going to need to make some changes. We're going to change the behaviors, but we're going to come alongside you, and we're going to help you make those changes, right? So at the end of the day, for some people, they just look at this and like, can't quite get my head around this. Imagine if this was the wealth continuum, okay? On the far right-hand side, if you were, infinitely wealthy, right? Independently wealthy, multi-billionaire, right? To the far right-hand side. And then the far left-hand side, you were broke, in deep debt, right? So almost like irreconcilable. You are homeless, you're on the street, you could never recover, right? That's the far left-hand side. Look at where it puts you at the midfield in the middle at zero. That's not in debt, and it's also not wealthy. Okay. So if we looked at our health this way, it's like, man, can't you see that there's a different set of strategies? There's a different set of experts you would listen to if you're just trying to get out of debt and get back to zero. But zero ain't wealthy, right? So if you actually wanted to build wealth, you'd have to adopt new strategies and follow a new expert and employ new behaviors to build wealth. Say yes if you guys get what I'm saying here. It's like we can think about it with our money, but man, people just dismiss that truth, that dynamic when they think about their health. But we all know the truth is your health is your wealth. Ask anybody who's lost their health. I love the expression for the man who has his health, he has 1,000 dreams and goals. The man who has lost his health has only one.
I mean, that statement alone is so profound when you sit there because I think so many people take their health for granted. And then when that's stripped away from you, that has to be your sole focus or just takes up so much of your focus when you don't have it anymore. You can't even think outside the realm of, okay, I have lost that. Now what do I do? It's scramble time. And to be able to focus this back in is a game changer.
Yeah, the worst place to make decisions about your health is in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to know where you stand and understand your strategies long before you find yourself in a situation like that. So I think we can wrap with this concept. I want to share this concept. This is something that I created for our patients. We served in Boston for 24 years. Uh, and I now teach it to thousands of chiropractors around the world who are taking care of hundreds of thousands of people. So this is something that we created that we nicknamed the Dirty Dozen, right? And we call it the Dirty Dozen because honestly, this used to live on a piece of paper that I had on my desk in my adjustatorium where I take care of patients. It had coffee stains on it, Michael. It had my speed marking pencil. The corners were all rolled up. These are the Dirty Dozen because we went over it, over it, over and over. We had 39 associate doctors that we trained up in our system in our office so we could replicate what we did in our office and sprayed them all over the world so that they could reproduce the practice that we had. And I taught all of them this Dirty Dozen, and it's 12 things everyone needs to know to be healthy. These are the 12 things everyone needs to know to be healthy. So number one is healthy is normal. Healthy is normal. And if you were to listen to the news or the media, the commercials, man, if you would listen to the quote unquote authorities, they would tell you that healthy is not normal. Sickness is the norm, right? So at the end of the day, people have been stripped of this truth. It's like, listen, if you're healthy, that's normal. If you're sick, that's abnormal. Start there. Number two, the body is smart. The body's intelligent. The body's not stupid. So as soon as you start looking at the body and listening to the body and the body signals and you recognize there's an intelligence in the body, and that's communication, the last thing you want to do is stifle the communications from your body that's telling you need to start doing this or stop doing that. So we need to recognize that the body is incredibly intelligent, right? Like we said, a sperm bumps into an egg and 270 days later, you're you. That's just this claim intelligence, right? What have you done in the last 270 days? It's incredible. Then the nervous system, this intelligence courses across the nervous system. There's an innate or inbound internal innate intelligence the body has that God seeded in us, right? So when we talk about knitted together in the womb, this is the intelligence. He stayed on the job. You can call it grace. I call it innate intelligence. He stayed on the job as an intelligence that regulates the body and heals the body. And all of that intelligence, that nervous system is the communication system of the body. So much of that intelligence courses across the nervous system. So we call that nervous system the master system. With this beautiful and simple diagram that we use that we call the safety pin cycle, whereas at the bottom of the safety pin, that's the cell or the tissue or the organ system, and it's talking back to the brain, telling the brain what it needs, and then the brain tells the tissue what to do, right? So that beautiful cycle is called the safety pin cycle. And when you have the communication loop patent or intact, when there's good communication, it's just like when there's good communication in a family or in a couple or in a business or in a factory. That's when we're optimized. And when communication breaks down, that's when everything turns to dis-ease and dysfunction. And then what is wellness? When we talk about wellness, wellness is defined. It is the body's ability to adapt readily and appropriately to stressors. Listen to that definition once again. Everybody talks about wellness, but nobody understands what it means. Wellness is the body's ability to adapt readily and appropriately to stressors. We're under stress all the time, from the outside in and from the inside out. Thoughts, toxins, and trauma, it has us surrounded, right? So modern life is so tragically unnatural, which leads to so much stress. This system of communication is so important that we live our lives through our nervous system. We're adapting all the time through our nervous system, that God encased it in bone, right? So the skull is like a helmet that protects the brain. Well, the brain just continues through a big hole in the skull called the foramen mac through the brainstem into the spinal cord. That spinal cord continues down and branches out, just like the tree legs and roots of a tree feed every tissue. Well, the skull protects the brain, and the spinal column is the suit of armor that protects the spinal cord. So everybody thinks a chiropractor is a back doctor or a spine doctor. It's like the reason that's our anatomical focus is because the spine houses and protects the nervous system. If you want to have a healthy body, you have to have a healthy nervous system. If you want to have a healthy nervous system, you have to have a healthy spine. That's why we're focused on the spine. And like I said, life is stressful. Wouldn't everybody agree? Modern life is abnormally stressful. Thoughts, toxins, and traumas. And that kind of stress overrides the system, and it creates a problem, a condition called subluxation. Vertebral subluxation is a breakdown in that communication that keeps the body healthy and healing. So when you break down the communication between the body talking to the brain talking to the body across the nervous system, that's called subluxation. And going back to that very simple but profound diagram of the safety pin, when that safety pin is closed, that's when we express health. When the safety pin gets opened, that subluxation, we break down that communication between your body and your brain, and bad things happen. This is when we move away from health. That's where immunocompromise comes from. So what does subluxation cause? It causes disease, and disease will manifest eventually as symptoms, crises, conditions, what we call body signals. So what causes subluxations? Thoughts, toxins, and traumas. And everybody understands how stressful their thought life is. Everybody gets that, right? So what most people agree is that your life is stressful. It's probably more stressful than it was last year, and it's probably going to be more stressful next year, right? What most people will also understand is that unwanted stress will make you sick. What most people don't understand is what system in the body helps you cope with and adapt to stress. That's the nervous system, right? So if you want to have a healthy body, you have to have a healthy nervous system. If you want to have a healthy nervous system, you have to have a healthy spine. So how would you know if you have subluxation? You have to get checked by an expert. Just like you have to get a mammogram, just like you have to get your teeth checked by a dentist, just how you have to put a blood pressure cuff to know if you have high blood pressure, if you want to get your colonoscopy, whenever you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, you go and you seek out an expert who are trained to detect and correct subluxation. If you don't know what you're looking for, you'll never find it. And if you don't find the cause of a problem, you'll never fix the problem. You need to see a chiropractor who's uniquely trained and expert in identifying whether the nervous system is functioning optimally or not, and exactly what needs to be done. So if you do have subluxation, here's the good news. You can correct it. And how do you correct it? Michael already said it. It's the three-legged stool. It's chiropractic adjustments in rhythm to correct the problem. It's breaking the bad habits that cause your problem in the first place. And it's adding specific exercises so you strengthen the body and you hold your adjustments longer. So we call that the three-legged stool. Number 11 and 12, I have to say it or my head's going to explode. Number 11, we are on a mission, right? So we're on a mission to make America healthy again. This is our time. This is our window. I've never been more excited to be a chiropractor and have the opportunity to lead so many awesome chiropractors and to restore health by helping other people help more people. And that is number 12, which is we need your help. We need your help. Who do you know? Who do you know that doesn't know what you now know because you sat with us for the last half an hour? I was like, man, that was, I can't argue with that. Right. So who do you know? If you know somebody who needs your help, just reach out to Dr. Michael. And if you thought of somebody during this last half an hour of this conversation, if maybe it was you, maybe you're thinking about you, maybe it's your child, maybe it's your spouse or your parent, maybe it's somebody at work, you got to tell them what you now understand, because if they knew what you knew, they'd do what you do. So send them to see Dr. Michael. If you're not local to Dr. Michael, he's got an incredible network of doctors. So do I. Feel free to reach out to me and I'll find you an on-purpose, awesome chiropractor that will help your body express its health potential.
Whew, man, what a great podcast. Dr. Stephen, one of the things I want to say, and I'll let Caroline close us out before we close out, is that what I love most about Dr. Franson is you may not believe what he was talking about, but there is no doubt whatsoever that he does. And that is why, that's why I'm willing to attach one of my, as I would say, a caboose to his train. So I am on his team, and I know he already knows that, but I want to say it publicly, like, um, being at the remarkable practice, being at an event, guys, we're not talking about, 30, 40 chiropractors. We're talking about a room full of 400 or 500 chiropractors and their teams who are sold out to being all in to seeing America get healthy again. And these guys have a vision that is not just, it's global. And so I am glad to be a part of that vision. And I'm glad to be a part and walk along somebody with such great passion. He doesn't make anything by being on this podcast, but he gains everything because he's walking in his calling, and he knows his calling is bigger than money or finances. So from the bottom of my heart, it's been an honor to spend this last 45 minutes with you, Dr. Stephen. You are an amazing individual, and not too many people in life will I follow. But I know the three things, and I mean that, but the three things that are most important: that he loves the Lord, he loves his family, and he loves chiropractic. So God bless you, brother. I'm praying for you, and I know that God has gigantic things for us, as well as all of the things that you step into. By the way, if you enjoyed Dr. Cody, I didn't mention this, but Dr. Cody came from Chiro Matchmakers. Is one of the co-founders, he is, and we have Dr. Cody's been there for about 3 months, and he's just killing it. But we used Chiro Matchmakers there. They were fantastic, and I'm not on any dating websites, but I am on but I did seek out a chiropractor. He came all the way from Wisconsin, and he is just correcting subluxations at a rapid rate, and just a man of God. It just, so really good.
You wouldn't believe God purchased at several hours in the Chiro Matchmakers booth, and they're just like, "Wait a minute, is this what I think it is?" It's usually female, and they're like, "Please tell me that this is a chiropractic matchmaking service." And I was like, "Well, good. There's probably a business, but yeah, no, thank you, man." And anybody who rubs the healthcare continuum, the wellness health continuum, you can get a copy of that here. We're gonna put a link for them to download that, and then also, if you guys want to reach out to me, follow me on Instagram. It's easy to find me. And then also we've got our Remarkable CEO podcast. And if you want a copy of that Remarkable Dirty Dozen, I'll give that to you guys as well. So if you just write in the show notes, Dirty Dozen, and if you can get that over to me, I'll send them.
It's already up at every table in our office, so they can get it there too.
It's just awesome. Remarkable CEO podcast. If you love this conversation, you'll certainly like what we got going on over there with Dr. Pete and I, another awesome TCR chiropractor. So, man, I just love and appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Franson. It was so fabulous having you on. Dr. Hestet, so glad to have you back today with us. We love you guys. So thankful for you all. Until the next episode of Coffee with the Chiro, have a wonderful and blessed rest of your day.
If you want to achieve optimal health and make a huge impact on lives around the world, listen up. Exposing your worth, value, and significance is the heart behind Redeem Essentials. What you may not know is how far that statement goes. When you purchase from Redeem Essentials, 10% of that money goes to our partner, Matthew 10 International, which works tirelessly to bring freedom, both spiritually and physically, to folks around the world who are desperately in need, exposing their worth, value, and significance. Your relationship with Redeem Essentials no longer impacts you alone. Now you have the opportunity to make a massive impact on people's lives everywhere. Redeem Essentials. Your choice, their freedom.